Good afternoon and happy Earth Day, everyone. My name is Chris Kerr with the Ignatian Solidarity Network, and on behalf of everyone at ISN, thanks for joining us and happy Earth Day once again. For over 15 years, the Ignatian Solidarity Network has been uniting the Ignatian family. That means the Jesuit network, as well as those who are inspired to work for justice through the spiritual tradition of St. Ignatius of Loyola, to build a more just world through faith-based social justice formation, education, and advocacy. If you haven't already, please check out our website, ignatiansolidarity.net, and like and follow us on social media to get the latest advocacy alerts, educational resources, and much more. As we join together as an Ignatian family on this 50th anniversary of Earth Day, we recognize that we do so in a different way than we had planned to due to COVID-19. We are holding all of the people affected by COVID-19 in our prayers in a special way today at a time when we feel the truth shared in Pope Francis' encyclical Laudato Si, that we are all connected in newer and in deeper ways. We hope that this conversation provides us the opportunity to reflect on the important environmental work that is still being done despite these challenging circumstances, and how we can walk with youth towards a hope-filled future on a healthy earth. So with this in mind, I'm excited to introduce our guest, Michael Downs. Michael is a native of Montana, but now lives in the Bay Area, where he serves as the Director of Justice and Kinship at Bishop ODowd High School. He teaches a senior leadership class in social justice and a cross-department course in spiritual ecology. As an alumnus of the University of Notre Dame and the Jesuit School of Theology at Berkeley, Michael served as a classroom teacher in Texas, a campus minister in Europe, a volunteer in India, an outdoor educator in the Northwest before settling in California. He is also currently being certified as a Laudato Si animator by the Global Catholic Climate Movement. Welcome, Michael. We're glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Michael, we know that you are one of many teachers who's working hard to educate students through the transition to the digital classroom, and appreciate you taking time in the midst of all that to talk with us today. So thanks so much for being with us. How's it been going being in the digital realm as a teacher?
So far, so good. Grateful that our school has a great tech staff and resilient, adaptable students. More of my bandwidth has been teaching my second and fourth graders at home as their reality is shifted to, but so far so good.
I know we're running our own small school here in my house as well, so I can empathize with that. Now, Michael, your work at Bishop ODowd High School, you've been a true leader in environmental sustainability and inviting students to reflect on their relationship with creation. The school has made an institutional commitment that includes financial backing, which is huge, to live out our faith's call to care for creation. Personally, as a solar farmer myself, I was impressed to see that you have a live environmental dashboard for your Center for Environmental Studies there. And I know we're gonna try to show that dashboard here. Oh, there it is here on the screen. Can you tell us? I know that this dashboard is the product of the work of many people at Bishop ODowd, and you're not maybe the person that is the expert per se, but can you tell us a little bit about what this illustrates for the Bishop ODowd community?
Yeah, sure. Well, in our state-of-the-art 5,000 square foot Center for Environmental Studies, which I'll speak about a little bit later, this is one of the features. It's a teaching tool, but it's also a kind of a sustainability tool. I think we're motivated by the science that says, you know, when people can see what they're using or what they're wasting in real time, especially, then they're more motivated to conserve and just use more mindfully their resources. So yes, it's for our own kind of a monitoring of energy and water use, but it's also a teaching tool for students, especially in their freshman year science and the environment class.
Excellent. And I see that it, as we were looking at it, you can see that it illustrates not only the electrical usage, but water usage. And you know, I think that, you know, as you pointed out, and I will say, as I said, I'm kind of a solar farmer, and this is my own household, kind of what we're producing. Whoops, I got a message there. What we're producing versus what we're using right now. and the ability to think about the contrast between our production and our usage. And when we do that, it really gets us thinking about both the potential to create energy, sustainable energy, but also like how we use our resources, right? And how we, and the direct link that has to how we care for creation. So it's so exciting to see an institution doing that. And it seems like you're really creating an educational moment that every time the lights are turned on or off, or the water is turned on or off, that there's learning that can happen in the context of a school day. So that's really cool to see. Again, we're with Michael Downs here for this special Earth Day program, and I just want to welcome some folks who've joined us from different parts of the country. We've got Guy Savastano. Guy's joining us from St. Ignatius High School in Cleveland, so welcome, Guy. And also welcome to Valerie, who's at Aquinas High School in Bronx, New York, and she also mentioned that she's a Fordham grad, so welcome to Valerie. Thanks for being with us. Now, Michael, can you share a bit about the programs and infrastructure that Bishop O'Dowd has in place that demonstrate this institutional commitment to care for creation? What challenges, if any, have you experienced integrating ecological consciousness and programs into your school community?
I'd be happy to. Before I do, Chris, I just want to express a little gratitude to the Ignatian Solidarity Network for making this work so central to your mission now. I know I was reflecting with students recently on their truncated senior year, and they look back and some of the highlights for them, the biggest highlights are products of your work and your team. So I just want to thank you for the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice, which raised environmental justice as a primary issue. It was a privilege to co-present with one of your colleagues, Brenna. Also to Aaron and Lena, who swung by our school on the way to the Rupe Leadership Summit, which really planted some seeds with my students as well. So a big thank you to you. Also, just thank you to the Earth, our web of life, all the systems that sustain us today, even as it's getting a break from human activity. So yeah, I'd love to tell you a bit more about my school, and maybe Kelly can project a few pictures that I wanted to share with the audience. Again, my name is Michael Downs. I serve as Director of Justice and Kinship at Bishop O'Dowd High School in Oakland, California. And I'm really here on behalf of a legacy of sustainability warriors. Rumor has it that in 1968, O'Dowd was the first school in the country to have an environmental science class. And once the first Earth Day happened in 1970, it really kind of took off there. I'm also here on behalf of my students, especially the eco leaders and solidarity and action leaders who really have made climate justice a priority for our school this year. And on behalf of my colleagues committed to this work, especially the Creation Care team, which helps make O'Dowd such a unique community. So O'Dowd's not officially a Jesuit school, but it definitely has the Ignatian spirit infused in its charism. And I wanted to mention that because that's really what this work flows out of. This is what our charism says. And for those of you from the Ignatian background, this will ring a bell. Finding God in all things calls us to community and diversity, academic excellence, strength of character, kinship with creation, social justice, and joy. I was drawn there because of those last three qualities: kinship with creation, social justice, and joy. O'Dowd has been sort of acknowledged and celebrated for its multifaceted approach to sustainability for a lot of years, through awards and certifications, but inspired by Pope Francis' Laudato Si in 2015, and the Canticle of California by the California bishops last year, this commitment to sustainability is really being renewed and refashioned more explicitly through the lens of kinship with creation. It's an exciting time, but it's also a time of urgency, a sacred urgency. And I think we're situated geographically and culturally to be a leader in that. So yeah, we take the Pope at his word that caring for creation is essential to the life of virtue, not just optional or secondary. And we think that we're called to empower and support our young people to grow in solidarity, responsibility, and compassionate care. So I brought some images along to share with you how we manifest at O'Dowd this commitment to kinship with creation through 4 C's: our campus, our curriculum, our community, and our culture. And Kelly, if you can put up the first images, that'd be great. So just a few snapshots of our campus. Our sustainability initiatives offer concrete examples of large and small projects that have reduced our ecological footprint, saved money, created lasting social change. And so this is how we try to walk the walk each day. On the right, the upper right, is our Center for Environmental Studies. It's our 5,000 square foot LEED Platinum certified educational facility dedicated to cultivating the next generation of environmental and sustainability leaders. It features two large indoor classrooms and a large covered outdoor classroom, which enable experiential learning, cutting edge research, and lots of teaching tools built into the sustainable features of the building. The Living Lab, which you can see featured on the left 3 pictures, is a 4-acre certified wildlife habitat and outdoor classroom committed to reconnecting students with the natural world and developing their sense of kinship with creation. It actually began about 20 years ago as a Jubilee Year project, and it was an ecological restoration event led by students, faculty, and parents. Volunteers designed and installed every part of the Living Lab, transforming a once neglected hillside covered in garbage into a vibrant outdoor classroom. So it's developed a reputation among school gardens and urban restoration sites, and seeks to really, like I said, connect our students in the spirit of ecological integrity. So if you were to walk through there today, Chris, you hear chickens chatting, the many species of birds who've passed through. I think it's around 60 different species at this point. The baby frogs, the beehives buzzing. Our campus has also made bold steps in terms of renewable energy, water conservation, waste sorting, purchasing, e-waste, and transportation. The next C that drives us is a focus on curriculum. So, students will build a solid foundation in sustainability starting right off the bat in their 9th grade year through their core course of science and the environment, through English classes, through geohistory, and through their 9th grade Hebrew scriptures class. And then opportunities abound after that as well, including a new religious studies elective called spiritual ecology, to name a few. So at ODowd, curriculum also extends outside the confines of a typical desk and room into what we call our Beyond the Classroom program. These varied between department, but regularly send students out to the Living Lab and beyond as a class requirement. During our current accreditation process, our school community has discerned as an institutional priority the deepened understanding and integration of Laudato Si and sustainability into our curriculum and decision-making throughout departments. The third C I just wanted to highlight is community. Community engagement on sustainability topics and issues often comes in the form of programs, activities, events, educational awareness. And so our commitment to sustainability through the lens of kinship with creation impacts not just how we form and nurture community on campus, but also how we connect to the broader community of Oakland and East Bay. For example, the produce from our Living Lab is enjoyed by students and staff in the school cafeteria, but also donated to local agencies. The Living Lab has served as a source of compost, plant starts, and mentorship for local schools and community gardens. And there's lots of avenues for parents and alumni alongside students, faculty, and staff to volunteer in the lab, including our monthly Saturday work days. And we want those volunteer opportunities to be opportunities for service, renewal, and community gathering. And then one more thing I want to mention in community is a new development I'm really excited about. Our freshman year service learning program has just been renamed the Common Home Project. So that means every freshman, while being grounded in cutting edge science in their science and the environment class, and reflecting on God's call to care for creation in their Hebrew scriptures class, will also perform 10 hours of service at a local nonprofit committed to sustainability, environmental justice, community gardening, or the like. So we're deeply grateful for our blossoming partnerships with local agencies. There's a few here, including Canical Farm, City Slicker Farm, and Planting Justice. And the last C I just wanted to mention is the culture of sustainability and kinship with creation. Our hope is that from top to bottom, a student will experience sustainability woven into every aspect of the culture at our school. It's an intentional school value. It informs our administration's decision-making, and it manifests eventually, hopefully, in students, as they discern where they're going to go to college, what they're going to major in, what careers they might pursue that could be around sustainability or at least informed by those values that they've learned at ODowd. So I want to highlight two particular parts of this community that are central to shaping this culture. If you look at the upper right here, this is the Creation Care team. It's a group of 7 adults who are tasked with overseeing our living lab and sustainability programs related to kinship with creation. They bring a tremendous amount of commitment and competency, tremendous amount of heart to their care for our land and for our students. And then the bottom left is this year's Eco Leadership team. This is an empowered group of seniors selected to take action to bring forward, these visions of sustainability, justice, and joy at ODowd and beyond. So they act as stewards of the Living Lab. They lead an eco club. They organize environmentally themed campus events, like they're doing things today for Earth Day, and we have a whole Earth Week next week, and connect our school to the broader movement. So, just to close this intro, our goal is really, in the Pope's words, integral ecology. How do we manifest the truth that science and spirit tell us, which is that all of life is interconnected and therefore interrelated and interdependent. One final example, if you go back to that slide, Kelly, just to see how it's in our culture. The bottom right is the last thing we did before our school closed for the COVID crisis, and it was Pi Day, 3.14 for you math nerds out there. March 14th, we had homemade pies from the Living Lab to share with our students. So, Chris, that's a glimpse of our campus curriculum, community, and culture related to sustainability, kinship with creation, and would love to share more stories.
That's beautiful. I love the C's. I love sharing of the different C's. That was wonderful. We're joined today with a special edition of ISN Live, the special Earth Day edition of ISN Live, and I want to make sure that folks know that they can let us know they're here. Pose a question, share a comment either in the Facebook or YouTube comment stream or on Twitter using the hashtag ISN Live. And we have a couple of folks at Annie, who I think is maybe a friend from Bishop ODowd, says hello. And then welcome to Mary Riley from St. Francis High School in Mountain View, California. Now, Michael.
Can I give quick shout outs before you go on?
Absolutely.
Annie Prutzman is the co-founder of the Living Lab and goes by the nickname Mama Prutz because of the many years and blood, sweat, and tears she's put into our campus sustainability. So I bow in deep gratitude to her as a friend and colleague. And then Mary Riley, she was a student at the Jesuit School of Theology last year and came to intern at ODowd. And so we miss her, but know that her next school community is lucky to have her. So glad they're here.
And Sarah says hello from ODowd too. So there's lots of folks there. Now, Michael, we shared that folks are watching from places like Cleveland, Ohio, and New York City, and in the Bronx and things like that. The work you're doing there at ODowd, is exciting. But California has been a place where environmental sustainability has been something that people have been focusing on for many years. As I point out, there are folks watching from other parts of the country, and you yourself have lived in other parts of the country and in the world. Can you talk about any advice you would offer to young folks, to folks working in schools in regions of the country that perhaps have less of a commitment to sustainability, both sustainability education, climate science, and maybe aren't finding the sort of institutional support, even financial support to make things like this possible?
Sure. I mean, this is a huge question, and I'm happy to continue with people offline as well, but I'll just give kind of a few quick answers. I come from Montana, which is a really interesting place because my love for the land was very much a part of my upbringing in the Rockies. It's a place where conservatism and conservation kind of meet, where you meet a lot of red environmentalists, so to speak. So I do think it's possible whatever your political, geographical context is, to bring this work forward. So a few suggestions. I was taking notes on this earlier, thinking in case this question came up. One thing I'd recommend is connecting with core allies at your institution. You might be surprised in your administration, among faculty, staff, students, parents, your board, even alumni, neighbors, etc. There's bound to be someone who resonates with your care, concern for issues related to what's happening to the natural world. There might be people that are already on board, so find each other. I think another thing is the importance of connecting to the earth. Each bioregion of this country and this world have a unique story to tell. What is unique and sacred about the story of your bioregion? What's endangered? That some people can get on board with when it's their own backyard. And we've found a lot of meaning in helping students tell the story of their place. I think finding uplifting and empowering student voices. I read a study that said the most impactful voices to convert people's thinking around climate change, in other words, turning deniers into believers, is middle school students. I think the idea is that young people who can talk the talk and have the science and have the heart for this can really be influencers. So our institutions are called to give them a voice, give them a venue, so those voices can be heard. In the Catholic context, I assume we're all connected to Catholic institutions here, to challenge our church leaders to live up to Laudato Si, which really is a mandate by the Pope. We're very fortunate where we are because our regional bishops wrote a response to that about how Catholic institutions in California need to step up to respond to Laudato Si. We're fortunate that our resident chaplain, Father Jim Sullivan, is very on board and supportive through masses and prayers and his love for creation. Two more ideas is researching what other schools and churches are doing. So you have some partner institutions, you have some inspiration. Staying up on the science. I think we need to know what we're talking about. And if the coronavirus is teaching us one thing, it's that science is real and we need to take it seriously. And then the last thing I'd say is, starting small. Part of what I've shared is the result of lots of years of effort and intention and collaboration.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. Now, you have some, at ODowd, you have some tremendous youth environmental leaders on your campus, some of whom have led a powerful prayer service. I remember at the Public Witness during the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice last November. What plans do students have for Earth Day and to keep environmental activism going during this time of social distancing and virtual learning and things like that?
Sure. Yeah, we're really lucky to have student leaders, like you said, and thankful to ISN is one of the places that help those student voices be heard. So hot off the press, this is what our virtual Earth Day looks like, but at ODowd, it's actually a preview for next week. Our school has a tradition of devoting an entire week to the Earth. So this morning, there was a video sent out to students about the history of Earth Day, and it actually had stories from a couple members of our community, including Mama Prutzman, who you just saw, and Tom Tyler, one of our legendary science teachers. Students have sent suggestions virtually to their classmates about getting outside today, going vegan or vegetarian for the day, reducing their plastic use, sharing a memory of nature on social media. And then they listed several virtual actions they could be a part of, including Earth Day Live, the ISN offerings, and others that they had researched. And then the day will end with a video promoting what they'll do next week, which I brought along to share with you all. And then tonight they're actually having a Zoom film discussion and viewing. They're either watching The Story of Plastic or How to Change the World. So there's just a few things, again, all student initiated, that are going on today. So here's a glimpse of Bishop ODowd's Earth Week, which will actually happen next week. That's our campus. I'm just kidding. It's not that pretty. So each day will have a theme. Monday is focusing on energy. Tuesday is focused on land and land use. Wednesday is about our brother and sister animals. Thursday about water and water use. And we'll close next Friday with invitations to climate action.
Nature's been keeping me sane during this time by just giving me a place to escape when I'm feeling really overwhelmed from schoolwork.
During the quarantine, I've been taking, I would say, weekly, maybe twice a week hikes with my dog, just in areas around Oakland, East Bay. And it's been really nice to kind of get outside and, get away from my TV, my PS4, whatever. It's helped me be sane, helped me see other people a little bit, even though we're staying 6 feet away.
During this time in quarantine, I've been enjoying just like being outside because I've been able to reconnect with nature and my family a lot more. And I like to just like go on walks or hikes with my family pretty often, and it's just a nice way for us to like relax, get some fresh air, and just like enjoy the scenery around us that we usually took for granted.
So connecting with nature is helping me stay sane right now during this quarantine, because I'm able to get outside and kind of focus on myself.
Nature is helping me stay sane right now, especially since like I'm cooped up in the house for majority of the time. I live right next to a hill, so I'm able to take walks pretty much every day, and I'm taking one right now.
But a big way that I stay sane regardless of the coronavirus is by exercising, and this has given me a time to pretty much learn how to run. I never really was a person that went on many runs, but I am now, and I've been going on runs in nature. I'm in this little view spot with my dog right now that we ran up to. So I hope all of you guys are finding ways to stay happy and stay sane. Nature is a great way. Exercising is a great way. So I hope everyone's eating healthy, social distancing. We'll beat this one day at a time. I know it's really rough right now, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
So those are some of our senior leaders. And again, student initiated, wanting to lift the spirits of their peers who are separated from each other and separated from a sense of normalcy. And so just really grateful and inspired by them.
That's great, Michael. Could you tell us a little bit about, I know as a part of this formation around commitment to caring for creation, you developed a spiritual ecology class with units based on the movements of the examen. Can you tell us more about that and the role that spiritual ecology has in accompanying youth as they work for a hope-filled future?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'll never forget, it was the day after the November 16 election, and people were feeling all kinds of different emotions, but the spirit was moving because there was an invitation by our sustainability department to the religious studies department to co-create a course called spiritual ecology that would explore like the spiritual dimensions and also the spiritual implications of the climate crisis. So it took about a year and a half to get the curriculum together. And since that time, it's been a very fruitful collaboration. It's an upper level elective. Between religious studies and sustainability. And this year, the enrollment doubled, and we brought in another religious studies teacher, a fantastic teacher, Maureen Dupree Dominguez, to help lead it in collaboration with Annie Prutzman. And it actually kind of spreads the Ignatian examen, which most people in the audience are probably familiar with, into a semester-long reflection on what's happening to our common home. So the beginning is sort of looking at where are we now, what's happening to our common home. And then it moves to like looking back on our history with the earth. What are the communities we could learn from, for example, indigenous communities, about being in right relationship with the earth? What are the ways we've fallen out of right relationship with the earth, especially in our culture, in our own church, in our own kind of locations? And then we move by the end of the semester to looking ahead, like the examen. What have we learned from the past? What do we feel called to do to restore right relationship with the earth? And then we give the kids some hands-on experience of ecological restoration in our living lab. So we want to hit them in the head with really cutting-edge climate science, but also hit them in the heart with opportunities for wonder and awe and reflection and even repentance related to what's happening to the planet. And the proof's in the pudding. The students really love it. I've had some of the alumni of that class come back and mention it. It's really stayed with them and even informed their college major decisions. One more thing I'll mention just on that note is it did draw some resonance with other people interested in the same idea. So we hosted a conference last spring with other sort of spiritual ecologists, because it is an interfaith and international conversation that we're having.
Excellent. And again, we're joined by Michael Downs from Bishop ODowd High School in the Bay Area. This is an Earth Day edition of ISN Live, so thank you for being with us. We have many people around the country who've joined us. Welcome to Sister Nancy, who's at Albertus Magnus High School in New York. Audrey says she's a big fan of Bishop ODowd's Living Lab and Sustainability Program, so welcome to Audrey. Catherine's with us from Boca Raton, Florida. And then welcome to Andrea from Jesuit High School up in Portland, and which is another great leader on these issues, and we're excited to have them with us. Now, Michael, as you noted a little bit earlier, we're living in a really unique moment right now, and there are environmental experts who are saying that there are some lessons that can be learned in this time that we can apply to the environmental movement, to the sustainability movement. What connections do you see between educating youth on climate change and what's happening in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis?
Yeah, I think it's a huge question and a huge opportunity for us as educators. And I was kind of brainstorming this earlier, and I don't say this lightly. I assume there are people on this call who are being impacted directly, whether it's through sickness or loss of loved ones or loss of jobs or loss of a sense of normalcy. So I just want to just express, my wish for just peace of mind and body for everyone who's connected here today. I think there's potentially some negative lessons that we take and some positives. We are discovering that how we treat plants and animals can produce disease. The jury's still out, depending on who you talk to in terms of the origins of this, but there does seem to be a sense that the exploitation of animals is connected to what's going on. We also know that clear cutting of forests, what's happening to the Amazon, et cetera, exacerbate the creation and spread of disease. I feel like this is kind of a trial run for the crises that will likely unfold in the lifetimes of our kids. So hopefully we'll learn from it. And one more kind of heavy lesson is, this is a world that's still governed by physics and biology and chemistry, and that we're not in control. Things can go bad and go bad quickly when we're out of right relationship with a sick planet. I think there's also some positive lessons, and this is coming from conversations with colleagues and students and just reading, because there's a lot of really great stuff content being created now. This is a chance for our students to see the interconnectedness of the world, for better, for worse. When you saw those little red dots scatter and spread till it covered the globe, that is true of disease. It's also true of good things, like love and compassion, and hopefully healing through this. I think we get to see what the planet looks like when it has a break from human activity, really compelling images of the clearer skies over big cities and waters clear again. I think this is a chance to build community through resiliency and adaptability and flexibility, which are going to be essential when we move into climate-oriented crises. I think it's a chance to really embrace science. And for people that are denying science, maybe this is a wake-up call that we need to listen to and empower and give voice to really good science. And then finally, I think a lesson that cooperation that goes beyond borders and political parties is essential to move through this together as humans.
What was the reaction as the students you work with kind of realized that they wouldn't be engaging, the call to action of Earth Day in person, in in-person ways? How did they respond to that?
I can't speak for all of them, and there's been others who've been more in touch with some of those student leaders in the last few days. But one thing I think I was, I don't know if I was surprised by or bummed out by, I think maybe pleasantly surprised by, is that students weren't excited to be away from school. I think at first there might have been this notion of, all right, spring break extended, but I think you realize like students love being connected with each other. They love being connected with their teachers. They love doing creative collaboration. But what you saw in that video is a product of creative collaboration that all happened virtually. So there was a team that made that video, and not to mention all those activities, without ever sitting in the same room. So I think it was a chance to see that young people are resilient. It's in them. They're also hopeful. And so I think they've moved into and through some of their initial kind of depression and feeling down about it, to find ways to stay connected and lift each other's spirits, even as they're, trying to stay connected to the planet. Now, with a little humility, I acknowledge California kids get to go to some of the beautiful places you just saw. And there's probably people in this video that don't have easy access to parks and paths at this time. And so I think if my students didn't have those outlets, this would even be a more challenging period.
Yeah. I'd like to switch gears here a little bit, and I'd like to give us a chance to hear from Brenna Davis, who's our Director of Education for Justice and Environmental Initiatives at ISN, about other ways that folks can get involved this week to celebrate Earth Day. So welcome, Brenna.
Thanks, Chris. We're very excited. Happy Earth Day, everyone. And Michael, thank you for being here and just for sharing your expertise. We really appreciate it. Partners like you are what make the network, the Ignatian Solidarity Network, work. So thank you. We have a bounty of activities for Digital Earth Day this year, and we'd just like to share a few simple ways that we are inviting you to celebrate in solidarity with us between now and Friday. And our theme is the idea of connection today, so having conversations like this, restoration tomorrow, and then action on Friday. So between now and Friday, we are inviting people to fast from meat, and because we know diets with less meat are gentler on the earth, and our spiritual tradition of fasting prepares us to be grounded advocates in the world. So we hope that you'll consider trying that out if you haven't fasted from meat before. This would be a great opportunity. The second activity is a little bit later tonight. We're going to have another conversation. I think Chris is going to talk about that in a few minutes, but I'm really excited. We'll be talking to someone who does geodata and mapping of Catholic lands to see how we can address climate change as a Catholic community. So that'll be later tonight. Tomorrow, we're inviting people to restoration. So I think everybody is feeling digital fatigue right now. People are on their computers a lot more. And so we know that nature has the power to restore and heal us. And so we're inviting people tomorrow to take a digital fast. If you can't do that for the entire day, even if you can just block out a little chunk of time to shut down your devices and just take some time to either go out into nature if you are in a place where that is a safe thing to do, or to go inward and to do some reading and reflection and prayer on climate issues. So we have a bunch of resources on our Earth Week website for just ways that you can kind of internally reflect on nature and take a little digital break, and some ideas that you can do even inside of your house. Something I've been showing my coworkers is, I thought it was really cool. You can grow beet greens just from the top of a beet. So these are all of my indoor farmed beet greens. And so we just have some suggestions like that to stay connected. And then finally, we invite you to act. And again, I think Chris is going to give more details about this, but there have been many recent air pollution rollbacks in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. And we've seen studies that have shown a higher death rate tied to air pollution. So now more than ever, we really need to ask our representatives to support legislation that is going to prevent rollbacks and reduce air pollution, because we know that often the most vulnerable people to face air pollution issues are children and people in low income communities. So this really is a justice and equity issue that we're asking people to act on. So whatever you do this week, we just hope that you'll take a little time to celebrate the earth and to see all of our suggestions for Earth Day and all of our resources. Please visit our website, igsol.net/earth-week. So thank you and happy Earth Day to everyone. Thank you for everything that you're doing to care for creation.
Excellent. Thank you, Brenna, and happy Earth Day to you as well. As Brenna mentioned, we have an invitation to take action. You can join us in calling on Congress to support legislation that would increase air pollution standards and oversight, especially regarding mercury and other toxic metals. And that upholds environmental impact studies as required by the National Environmental Policy Act. This is in order to improve health and the quality of life for vulnerable populations, such as children and low-income communities who are the most directly affected by pollution rollbacks. And so I encourage you to text. You take out your cell phones right now. You can text AIR, A-I-R, to 202-800-1541. Again, AIR, A-I-R, to 202-800-1541 to send a message to your members of Congress to call for clean air and to protect the vulnerable. And we hope you can do that today. Take that action. That'll send you directly to an alert to contact your Congress people. So I want to make sure you do that. Just want to come back to Michael real quick. And again, say thank you to Michael and thank you to those who joined us from around the country, and to Brenna for sharing those Earth Day updates. As you heard, we have another broadcast this evening. We're excited to welcome Molly Burhans, who's the founder and executive director of Goodlands. And she'll be sharing the work of Goodlands, which is trying to bring the assets of the Catholic Church together, the infrastructure of the Catholic Church to respond to the realities of climate change worldwide. And so we're excited to learn more from Molly. She's been recognized by the United Nations for her work, and she's also a graduate of Canisius College, one of our member institutions. So you can learn more about that at the Earth Week page that Brenna mentioned and is there on the screen for you to visit. And again, we want to thank Michael Downs from Bishop ODowd High School for joining us today and wish everyone a happy Earth Day. Thank you so much for being with us.